Was it difficult for you to tell me about when you first started having symptoms?
Yeah, it was very difficult for me to tell anybody. I think I was probably in denial because I didn't want something to be wrong, and I didn't want to worry you, especially because we had just gotten married 6 months before, and I didn't want this to affect, our marriage and our life together. Did you ever think that the ulcerative colitis was too much for you to handle?
I'd say in the beginning, before the first surgery, I was very concerned that after you woke up with the ostomy on, that you would be distraught, depressed, and not willing to accept that we can move forward as a family even like this. I was just there to be as supportive and loving as possible. And if you weren't even able to accept the love and the support, then it would have been too much for me to handle. But luckily, you were very, very strong. Every setback, you accepted it, and you kept fighting. How much did you worry about infertility after all of these surgeries?
That was a huge concern. Dr. Perek came into my room to talk to me about the risks of infertility. And I remember her saying, after these surgeries, there's going to be an 80 to 85% chance that you can't get pregnant on your own. For the next few days, I was just crying because ever since I was a little girl, I had this image of what my life was going to be like, and I always knew that I wanted to have kids. And so for someone to tell me that because of something that is completely out of my control, my whole plan for my life could change, that was horrible. It was a horrible feeling.
I remember that everyone saw how hurt you were and how devastating that was, that such a large part of what you wanted your life to be could not happen. When did you decide that you wanted to counsel people who had chronic illnesses?
I remember thinking about it right after my first surgery. Doctors don't prepare you for the emotional side of having a chronic illness. And so I wanted to take my experience and help other people that were going through this too. When I told you, what did you think?
I thought it was absolutely wonderful because it could take something that was predominantly a negative thing and turn it into not only a positive for other people, but a positive thing for our family. It was spectacular. Earlier on, we talked about how hard it was for you to hear that you'd only have a 10 to 15% chance of getting pregnant. When you first found out that you were going to be a mom, how did that make you feel?
It was the most amazing feeling I think I've ever felt. I think of him honestly as my miracle because I did not think that I was going to be able to get pregnant after all of this. And so when I found out I was pregnant, it was unbelievable. I don't know if you remember, I took like 4 tests after that just to make sure.
I do. I remember the look on your face. You had such a look of sheer joy when all of those pregnancy tests came back that you were pregnant. Now that you're counseling people with chronic illnesses, if there was any piece of advice you could give, what would that be?
That's a hard question to answer because there's so much that goes into having a chronic illness. It might sound kind of cliche, but what I would tell people is don't let this define you. Don't let it become your identity. Look at all the other parts of your life that define you, being a mom, being a dad, being an attorney, an amateur cook, whatever it is. Those are the parts that define who you are. That's your identity, not this chronic illness.
I think that's great advice.